Good afternoon, students. How is everybody? Good, good. All right. As you know, I attended the International Drama Conference over the summer, and while I was there, I met a friend of mine who teaches speech and drama at the Air Force Base in Ramstein, Germany. And since then, she and I have been planning a series of video conferences so that you and her class can meet and share ideas on improv and learn the basics of electronic communication. We will be meeting her class next Thursday. What do you think?
Pretty cool. I wouldn't get that excited. My experience with video conferencing hasn't been that good. My mom and I tried chatting with my dad last night. It was a big hassle. It was the first time I'd seen or talked to my dad since he was deployed to Afghanistan. We had trouble setting up the equipment, which took up a lot of time. When we finally got connected, my dad commented he couldn't see us very clearly, and there was a delay. We kept talking over each other. My mom was heartbroken.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. But the good news is there are several things you can do to improve the overall quality and effectiveness of how you conference. First, electronic communication requires the skill of being able to manage the equipment. You need to make sure that the software, camera, microphone, and speakers are installed, working, and set at appropriate levels. I've been in several situations where technology doesn't seem to work. What I've found is that I needed to practice with the system in order to see how it worked and learn to troubleshoot different challenges. Next, you need to manage the environment. This involves thinking about the location being captured on video. Make sure that the area or room you are in is adequately lit and that your computer settings have been adjusted to create a good, clear picture. Avoid areas that have a lot of background noise and prevent you from giving 100% of your focus to the other person when they are speaking. You may want to invest in a headset if you'll be doing a lot of chatting with your family and friends. Creating a good environment for conferencing involves a lot of teamwork. Be sure to ask if there are any distractions the other person is seeing or hearing. Be assertive enough to identify anything they can do to manage their environment and improve your conferencing experience.
Hey, would you mind shutting that window? Yeah, I can hear a lot of traffic noise. How do I sound?
So I've had a problem with people being on time for the conferences and remembering who is going to initiate the call.
Me too. You have to make sure the other person is a registered user and you have the right contact information.
Those are 3 great points. Let's add them to our list.
We did finally connect with my dad, but it just didn't seem very natural.
At this point, the 4 key components to active listening begin to play an important role. Focusing on the speaker involves thinking about your camera. The most important thing to remember is that the other speaker wants to see you looking at them. Look at the camera, not at the screen. If you need to review documents during your conversation, email copies ahead of time. Make sure the contents are large and clear enough to be shown clearly on camera. This is especially important in group meetings. Second, as with face-to-face communication, you have to think about what the other person is saying and what you'd like to say before responding. Never let the technology get in the way of clear understanding. Be ready and willing to ask for information to be repeated.
Hey, would you mind repeating what you just said? Yeah, your signal's breaking up a little.
Maya mentioned that her conversation didn't seem very natural. You have to remember that electronic communication is different. Verbal and nonverbal communication is just as important, but you have to follow a few guidelines. You never want your sound to come across as monotone, but also try to limit using overly animated or really soft voices. These may impact the quality of the audio the other person is receiving. When you talk, speak clearly and concisely into the microphone to avoid confusion. Short sentences work the best. Nonverbals are still very important when you are video conferencing. You can certainly use gestures, but just make sure your movements are deliberate and precise to avoid blurring on screen. The range of the camera limits the field of vision, and gestures may not always be clear.
I don't have a problem with blurring, but sometimes the internet is slow and there's a delay.
If you experience a delay, Try to wait until the other person has completely finished speaking before you reply. If you are ever concerned that the other person may say something you don't fully understand, try taking notes as they are talking. Paraphrase their ideas and write down any clarifying questions you need to ask. That way, when you are able to respond, you will remember what questions you wanted to ask. Finally, be confident. Being shy or reserved limits the communication that will occur. You need to keep participating. Even if you stumble or there are a few technology glitches, video conferencing is a great way to communicate, and it gets easier the more you use it.
So, what do you think, Maya? This has been good. I'm optimistic. My mom and I are scheduled to video chat with my dad again on Friday.
Well, Abby and I can show up beforehand and help you set up your system.
I'll make sure to prepare the environment.
Hey, how about we do a practice chat session before your dad calls?
Good idea.
Electronic communication is becoming increasingly important for both personal and professional situations. Remembering the keys to active listening and the basics of electronic communication will log you onto the path of success. Keep conferencing and keep thinking aloud.